Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am doing my top luxury beauty bronzers. So these are the best of the best. I went through my entire collection and chose the products that I think are worth the money the most. These are just my all-time favorite bronzers that I would recommend to anyone. So I highly suggest these products. Before we get into this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and please let me know down below your favorite luxury beauty bronzers because I would love to hear from you. And I also have a quick little request before we get into the video. So I'm filming with two different cameras. Would you let me know if you like the quality on the video that I did last time? Let me know if you like that quality or this quality better because I'm trying to determine which one to film on. So please just let me know. And let's just get straight into this video. So I'm not going to start in any particular order, like it's not going from best to worst bronzers because I all love these and they serve different purposes within my luxury beauty collection. I feel like if I just kept these bronzers and decluttered the rest of my bronzers, I actually would be really happy with my collection. And you guys will see I am doing a huge beauty declutter. I'm basically only keeping the top 10 products in each category. So I'm excited for that, but today I'm only going to mention top 6 bronzers. Just because I have other bronzers, I could have made a top 10, but once I got past 6 of the best bronzers, it was just kind of like I'm mentioning them to mention them almost. Like they're not my absolute favorite and I wouldn't recommend them to everyone. So that's why I'm only doing a top 6 list. So let's just start with the cream bronzer on my list. Now I am very, very picky with cream bronzers and this is the only cream bronzer I really like, except for the Chantecaille one. I also like that. But this is the one that makes my top 6 list because I think it is just like the best of the best. This is the Chanel Le Beige Healthy Glow Bronzing Cream. So this is the Soleil Tan Bronze. It's supposed to be universal. They do have a different shade now that's a little bit deeper. This is the lighter shade that is in the shade 390. So this is a cream bronzer. But I really like this cream bronzer because the formula is so different from other cream bronzers on the market. A lot of other cream bronzers that I have tried in the past, they almost are too greasy feeling. So there is a little bit of a swatch there. It is definitely a warm tone bronzer. So if you like something that is more neutral toned, you will not enjoy this because this is definitely a warm toned bronzer. So I do wish that Chanel would come out with more shades because while there are 2 shades, we need more shades, especially for deeper complexions. And then we also need a bronzer for lighter complexions that are also cooler in tone. But I do really enjoy this formula. What I really like about this in particular is that I can use it in a variety of different ways. So I really like this bronzer. You can actually use it as a base underneath your makeup, almost as you would like a primer of sorts. So sometimes if I just, especially in the summertime, if I want to go with something like really no makeup, I'll just apply this onto my skin and then use a concealer over top. Maybe go in with like a tinted moisturizer. And this is just beautiful as a base, but this is also really beautiful as a cream bronzer. It just blends into the skin beautifully and seamlessly. Sometimes I find creams are a little bit finicky to work with. Sometimes they can appear patchy or heavy, or they just don't blend the best on the skin. But with this bronzer, I have no problems. This just blends with ease. It almost applies, even though this looks like a really heavy swatch and it looks like it might be intimidating to use, like it would be too pigmented, it's actually not. It applies onto the skin quite sheer when you go in with this product initially. You can go in with a sheer amount of product, so it is quite buildable. And I do really enjoy this because, like I said, it is very sheer, so there is no coverage to this, so it's not going to add coverage to your skin. And I just think it has the capabilities of just melting right into the skin. So if you're looking for something that looks really natural on your skin, it's almost like that no makeup vibe, but your skin is just bronzed, your skin is just really enhanced. I think this formula is beautiful because it just really melts into the skin and gives you a very seamless application. And I really love it. It's really good in the winter time when my skin is quite dry. I like to reach for this product. And then also in the summertime when I really want to be quick and effortless, and I just want that really effortless, easy makeup, this is a product I reach for. So this is definitely one of my favorite luxury beauty bronzers. And then next on the list, I'm going to talk about cream to powder finishes. So these are kind of gel powder formulas. They're baked gelées, if we will, because I love a baked gelée. So I'm first going to start with the Chantecaille Real Bronze Bronzer. This is in the shade Sirena. If you can tell, I have hit pan on this. I love this bronzer, as you can see. Now, if I talk about something I love, I want you to know that I actually use the makeup that I love. It doesn't just sit in my collection. I like to use the makeup that I have. That is a big goal of my channel. I don't want makeup to just sit in the drawers and collect dust. I want to get used to my makeup. So you can definitely tell I love this bronzer. So this is a beautiful formula. It's a really interesting texture because it does almost feel cream-like, but it applies like a powder product would. So that is just kind of a heavy swatch of it there. As you can tell, this is a warmer toned as well. Chantecaille does have this in another shade. It's a deeper toned and it is called Goa. So Goa is deeper and more red toned, but I think Sirena suits my coloring better because it is a little bit more warmer toned. I don't want to say orange, but it's definitely more on the warm toned side. It doesn't have any red tones to it, and I just don't find a red toned bronzer flattering on my skin personally. But what I really love about this formula, like I said, it applies like a cream would. So it blends onto the skin very seamlessly and effortlessly. The texture of this is just smooth like butter, and how it goes onto the skin is very seamless as well. Now, the trick with these bronzers, and something that I see people have an issue with, is that they are hard to pick up with a brush because they are that gel to powder formula. So if you use these big gelée powders, you do need a really dense brush to pick up this product and deposit that color onto your skin. But I really like that because, again, then it makes this product really buildable. So you can go in with just a sheer amount of product, but you can build it up to gain some more intensity. And I just think this is the most beautiful skin-like appearance. It has a bit of a sheen to it, but there are no shimmer particles to this. Like, I can't detect any shimmer particles. And even on this swatch, the way it just melts into the skin is just beautiful. So I just love this bronzer. This is something that I use all the time. I use it on a weekly basis. It's just one of my favorite bronzers in my entire collection. The formula of this is just smooth and seamless. When you feel this texture, you will understand what I'm saying. It's almost like squishy. It's interesting, but it's a really beautiful formula. This is just one of the best bronzers on the market. So next I'm going to talk about another gel to powder formula. This one you guys have heard me talk a lot about as well. And you can see I also really enjoy this product as well. So this is the Sisley Phyto-Touche Sun Glow Bronzing Gel to Powder. Again, it is a gel to powder formula. Now I do want to mention my one downfall with the Sisley bronzer is that this is the only shade in this formula. And I just think in today's day and age, we need more than one color because we all know by now that one shade is not universal. We need different undertones, we need deeper colors, we need lighter colors. And that is why I hesitate on recommending this because it's just not a universal color. This is only going to suit a certain skin tone because if you don't have a warm tone skin and you're not maybe like a light to medium tan complexion, then you probably can't use this. But it is a really beautiful formula, very similar in formulation to the Chantecaille. It's basically almost the exact same formulation because it is a gel to powder formula. It applies onto the skin seamlessly and beautiful. This is very buildable on the skin. You can just apply a little bit of product and get a beautiful glow, but you can build it up and get quite an intense bronzed look. You get that kind of like golden goddess look if you really build this up, because this is definitely even warmer toned than the Chantecaille. So I will again give a really hefty swatch. And again, it kind of has that same formulation. When you feel it with your fingers, it almost feels creamy on the skin. It feels a little bit squishy. So there is a heavy swatch of it there. And the difference between this one and the Chantecaille is that this one actually has a bit more of a glow to it. So it even has more of a reflective quality to it. But again, you can't detect shimmer particles on the skin, but this does have a bit more of a sheen than even the Chantecaille. This has a beautiful skin-like glow. This is just a little bit more of a sheen without detecting those shimmer particles or anything glittery on the skin, because I don't like when you can see that shimmer sitting on top of the skin. This is just beautiful. It gives you that beautiful bronzed goddess effect. This is definitely something I tend not to use as much in the winter time just because of how warm toned it is and that it gives that more glowy effect. But this is something I reach for in the summertime when I want something more warm toned. It is just an absolutely beautiful formula. But again, I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. I'd recommend it if you have warmer skin and if you're on like the light medium tan side. Otherwise, you might just find if you're deeper in complexion, you might find this a little bit too light. And if you're lighter in complexion, I think this would be too warm toned of a bronzer for someone who has light skin and who is a little bit cooler toned. So that's my only hesitation, but it is absolutely one of my favorite formulas. And I probably will just get another bronzer next time I see this maybe on sale or something, just because I am definitely hitting the end of this. Like, this will die soon. So I'm gonna have to get a backup. And this is something, all the bronzers that I'm mentioning, once I go through them, I will repurchase them. That is how much I love them. So that is another bronzer that I highly recommend. And then I'm going to move into my favorite powder bronzers. So I'm going to start with, this is a new one in my collection. This is the Clé de Peau Bronzing Duo. It's called the Bronzing Powder Duo. I picked mine up in the shade number 2. So this is the deeper tone that Clé de Peau offers. I love that there's 2 different tones in here. So we have this kind of deeper shade that is a little bit more neutral in tone. And then we have this lighter shade that has a bit of a sheen to it and then is a bit more golden in tone. For me, I just tend to mix these back and forth together and apply them onto the skin. But what Clé de Peau does beautifully, they just do powder so well. When you feel these Clé de Peau bronzers or any Clé de Peau powder, they feel very buttery. They are silky soft. They're beautiful powders. Now, I kind of just, that's not the best swatch in the world, but you can kind of get an idea of the color. So we have that kind of deeper shade here. And you can, I don't know if you can tell, but it is more neutral in tone. And then we have this lighter shade with a bit more of a sheen. I would say that the color is comparable to the Chantecaille bronzer. It's definitely a warmer tone shade, but it's not too warm. It doesn't lean orangey or anything like that. But I just love these shades mixed together. They apply on the skin very beautifully. Because this is a powder product, you have to be a little bit more careful because it does go onto the skin quite pigmented. So I find the best way to apply this is that I will just take a brush and then I will dip my brush into this product. And then I like to just go on the back of my hand and get that excess product off the back of my hand. And then I'll just apply it to the skin that way. But again, it goes onto the skin. It blends very easily for a powder formula. It blends seamlessly. It goes on with a decent amount of pigmentation, but even though it has pigment, it's not hard to blend. And I just think this is such a flattering bronzer. Now, this is the bronzer that I recommended to my mom because when my mom asked me, what bronzer should I get? Now, my mom is in her 60s, so she has more mature skin. My original thought was to mention one of the gel to powders, but then I thought, you know what? They can be a little bit finicky to use, and if you are not experienced with these Beiges formulas, I feel like that's not the best bronzer to start out with. And then I also thought, I'm not going to recommend these to my mom because my mom has more neutral, cool tone skin, and the Sisley would just be way too warm toned on her. So I recommended the Clé de Peau for her just because this is such an easy powder formula to use. It looks very beautiful. This is definitely more of a neutral toned bronzer than any of the bronzers that I will recommend. If you're looking for something neutral toned that would be good for warm toned skin or cool toned skin because it is so perfectly neutral, this is the bronzer I would recommend for you because it's just a great neutral bronzer. I've never experienced Clé de Peau powders or their formulas. This bronzer is absolutely lovely. And I do want to mention that this tone is really matte on the skin, but it doesn't look drying on the skin. Clé de Peau, again, does that really beautiful formula where even though it's a powder product, they never look dry on your skin. They just go onto the skin beautifully. And this one, while it does have a bit of a sheen, like I mentioned, there's no glitter flecks, there's no shimmer flecks. You're not going to see a shimmer sitting on top of your skin. Just a really beautiful all-around bronzer if you're looking for just a typical powder formula. And then I have 2 more bronzers to mention, and they're both from Guerlain. So I am going to start with the kind of older favorite, I guess you could say. So this is the Guerlain Terracotta, the bronzing powder in the shade 03 Medium Warm. So this again is a typical matte formulation. It is a typical bronzing powder. So with this, you can just go in with any old brush and apply it as you normally would any other powder bronzer. It's not a finicky formula where you need to use a certain brush, but I really like this. If you can tell, I was just trying to swatch this on my hand, and there is the bronzer there. So in comparison to the other ones, it almost doesn't go on as pigmented to the skin. It applies onto the skin in a bit more of a sheer layer, which I really enjoy for a powder formula because that means that I have a lot of control over it. So I'm going to be able to build that formula up onto my skin and it's not going to get away from me. It's not going to be too pigmented, and then it's not going to be hard to blend. This is just super easy to build up onto the skin, to blend onto the skin. I really like that it's buildable. I think this formula is incredibly flattering because while it is more of a matte finish, there's no detectable sheen to this one at all. It's not a drying finish. Your skin does not look dry at all when you use this formula. It's just so beautiful, and I love the warmth in this. And I really think Guerlain does a standout job with their shade ranges because they come out with not only lighter bronzers than this one, but they come out with deeper shades, and then they also offer them in warm tones and cooler shades as well. So that just means that there's so many more opportunities for different skin colorings to get a bronzer that they will be really happy with, because although this shade works for me, if you're a lighter skin tone and you're more cooler tone, this certain shade won't work, but I can recommend this formula because I know that they offer it in a lighter tone that's more cooler in shade. So I just love this formula. I love this Guerlain bronzer. Guerlain does beautiful bronzers. This is a classic. This is an absolute staple. And then the next Guerlain bronzer that I have on my list, this is something that I have just picked up, but I already know I love it so, so much. This is the Guerlain Terracotta Light, their Sunkissed Healthy Glow Powder. And this, again, is in the shade 03 Medium Warm. I kind of want to pick this up in another shade as well, just because I am so happy with the formula. Now, I do want to mention, again, this does have a fragrance, but it's a different fragrance than this one here. It's almost, I don't know, I feel like it's a bit stronger than this one, but also this is older, so I don't know if the fragrance is just faded. Really nice fragrance, though. It's not overwhelming. It doesn't smell sickly or anything like that. It is quite a lovely fragrance. But moving on to the most important part, and that is how this bronzer performs. So this bronzer is actually even silkier than this matte bronzer, and I think that is just because it seems like it has some sort of emollient properties in it, because it's just a little bit creamier than the last bronzer that I mentioned. Again, when I swatch this, I have to swatch it quite heavy because they apply onto the skin in quite a sheer layer. If you can tell, this bronzer here, the Healthy Glow one, is lighter than this matte bronzer here. So it's lighter, and it also is a bit peachier. Now, I've kind of made a mess of this bronzer because I've been swatching it. I've been kind of swirling everything together. But there are different shades that are kind of scattered throughout this bronzer. So this is supposed to be kind of like a 3-in-1 Healthy Glow. So it's supposed to contain that bronzer shade, that blush shade, and a highlight shade. But kind of when you blend them all together, it's supposed to give you a very seamless, healthy glow. And I do think it really does. I was very hesitant about this because the previous Healthy Glow bronzers weren't my favorite, and I'm not sure if it's just because of how it was laid out or something like that, but I did think that the previous formula, you could actually see a bit more of the shimmer on the skin. This, I cannot detect any shimmer on the skin, and I love the healthy glow that it gives. It really does give a beautiful, healthy glow, very seamless bronzer. It's very buildable if you're looking for a buildable formula. I just think this looks incredibly flattering, and I'm so surprised. I think this is something I will use all year round because of how flattering on the skin it looks. I just think there's something so youthful about this bronzer that I can't really get from these other shades. And maybe it is because it has a bit of that peachy shade that just gives your skin a little bit more life. I don't know. I think it is very flattering, which is why I'm considering picking this up in maybe a lighter shade, maybe even a deeper shade for the summertime. But I just really, really am enjoying this formula. This is becoming, I don't know if I can say this yet, but this might be my #1 favorite bronzer of all time. I am just so incredibly happy with this. I'm going to go traveling later this year, and I will be taking this bronzer because I just think it looks so flattering on the skin, and I am so happy with it every time. I can also use this on the eyes as well. So for me, it's kind of multi-purpose. Beautiful, beautiful formula. So really, really happy with this bronzer. I think that you will see me talk about this bronzer throughout the rest of the year. When I talk about my favorite products, I don't just mention them once or twice. You are going to see these in my videos continuously because that is what I like to do on my channel here. I like to have a curated makeup collection, so I mention my favorites over and over so that you know that I really, really enjoy them. So that is it for my top 6, that's such a random number, luxury bronzers. These are the best of the best. If you're looking for a new bronzer, I highly suggest any of these. If you have any questions about these bronzers, please let me know down below because I will do my best to answer all your questions. And I would love to know your favorite bronzers because if I haven't tried a formula that you love, of course, I would love to try that out as well. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.